Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Simon. It's been a while, and you probably know by now that if I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to make videos. I don't care about content or algorithms or views. The idea is this is an educational channel. And whether I'm bringing you something extremely avant garde, something that I've researched myself that's never been introduced before, or classical traditional teachings from the canon of Vedic astrology. My goal is to bring you stuff on this channel that you can't really find anywhere else. Maybe you can find some of it, but I'm not going to search, the entire web to see if this exists or not. I'm going to share it with you if it is useful info. And today I have a very interesting, I think, profound topic that is based on the oldest of our texts. That is the Parashara Hora Shastra, which is the founding textbook of Vedic astrology. And it is on how to find your Achilles heel. Now, Achilles wasn't necessarily a Vedic. Am I mixing my metaphors here? Well, we're speaking English. So in the English language, the story of Achilles says that his mother, who was semi-divine, got a boon that she could bathe her son in a sacred river, and that river would render his body immortal, impervious to weapons. And of course, she held him by his feet and dipped the baby. But of course, she did not dip the feet, or the part that was covered by her hands was not exposed to the water. And of course, he had this weak spot. This, in a way, is a testament to the spiritual traditions evident in most ancient cultures, which said that, look, as strong as you are in this world, you still need providence, the help of the divine. And even Achilles, who had a divine mother, semi-divine, was still weak. His body had still a vulnerability. And of course, he died when Paris shot him through the ankle with an arrow. And Paris, ironically, was the weakest warrior, right? So the point here is, I think the larger point is that don't get too comfortable in this world, no matter how exalted you are, how strong you are. One still needs to appeal to divine providence. And I use the word providence because I just watched a documentary about George Washington, the founding president of the United States, and he used this word a lot. He didn't use the word God. He said that he was blessed by providence. And of course, when you look at his chart, his slightly amended chart, I pushed his chart forward 5 minutes. Maybe we can take a look at it. You will see that it's Jupiter everywhere and it's very much protected. So he was missed by bullets so many times that he firmly believed in this idea of providence. However, we are all subject, the physical body is subject to pain and suffering. And in this video, I'm going to show you, without further ado, how to find where in the chart or where in your body you may suffer from particular weaknesses. And this comes from the Brihad Parashara Hora Shastra in forget which chapter it is. It's fairly early on. And it says that each Drekkana of the chart, a Drekkana is a 10-degree portion, that is 1/3 of a sign, is assigned to a particular body part. Okay. And in the following order, I'm going to move my mug here. That order being the head first. So the first Drekkana, that is where your ascendant is, that 10-degree span of your where your ascendant is located, rules the head. Next is the neck and the throat. Okay. It actually says kanta. Kanta is throat, but basically this area. Then the lower belly. The translation says pelvis, but the word in Sanskrit is vasti or basti. And basti or vasti is anything that is below the navel, that is inside your your body. So that your lower gut. In medical terminology, we have, you can't really see here on the camera, but we have a foregut, which is the stomach and the duodenum, a midgut, which is your small intestine, parts of the liver, and your lower gut, which is the large intestine and rectum. So the lower belly relates to that area. So basically your pelvis and the organs inside it. The next Drekkana is the eyes, then the shoulders, then the genitalia, external genitalia. The word here is linga guda. Linga guda. Lingam is that which marks you. A lingam is a mark, is a sign. So it's what marks a male as a male, and what marks a female as a female. So the external, so the penis, but then in a female, the clitoris, vulva, and external genitalia. Then guda is anus. So everything from the external genitalia to the perineum, which is in between, and anus. That is the sixth Drekkana. Then the seventh Drekkana is the ears. The eighth is the arms. Then the gonads, which are your internal reproductive organs. So in women, the ovaries. In men, the in men, it's the testicles, sorry. And then in women, it's the ovaries. Nose, side, thigh, cheek, heart, knee, jaw, upper belly, that is the foregut, stomach, calves and ankles, and we'll talk about this in a minute because it also includes the legs in general, mouth, the mid belly, so that is the midgut, as well as the spine associated, and then the feet. All right. How do we work this out and how does this all work? All right. Let's dive into a chart. Why don't we? So this is the chart of famous golfer Tiger Woods. Now, I didn't search far and wide for examples, and some of this may not fit perfectly, but the idea is to show you how this works and go from there. All right, so the first Drekkana will always be where the ascendant sits. That is, if the ascendant is in the first 10 degrees of a sign, in this, so if you're looking at the South Indian chart, you could divide the sign like this: the first 10 degrees, second 10, third 10. So wherever that first Drekkana sits, that becomes the head. And then we move forward in that order. Okay. So head is where the ascendant is. And the next Drekkana is the neck or the throat. And then the third Drekkana is the basti or the lower pelvis. And then we move on to the next sign, 3 Drekkanas there, then the next sign, 3, and so forth. Okay. Now, in Tiger Woods' chart, now, well, let's see. How does the technique work? The technique works like this. Find where the very malefic planets are. And I usually start with Ketu. Okay. Ketu is a difficult planet to work with, particularly if it is also aspected by another malefic. In this case, Saturn aspects that Ketu. So this happens to be a particularly malign Ketu from Saturn's aspect. So we're going to look at the Ketu in all of the charts we're going to cover here. But of course, you can look at where debilitated planets sit. So he has debilitated moon. We'll take a look at that as well. So what Drekkana in what part of the body does his Ketu occupy? All right. Before we jump in and count, what we're going to do is divide the chart in two. And you'll notice that there are only 18 Drekkanas listed. That is because they refer to the 18 on the right side of the body and then 18 on the left side of the body. Okay. So the side that is already risen, and this is why the North Indian chart is useful here, but really both are useful. You can do this in both. You can divide this particular chart because he's a Virgo Lagna like this. Okay. And the side that is already risen is the left side, and this is the right side. Okay. I hope you're still with me. If you're not still with me, which class do I cover this in? I used to teach this to Ayurvedic students at the Ayurvedic Institute. It's a very cool technique. Just follow along, and I think it'll come. Okay. I'm rusty a little bit. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so bear with me. All right. What we've done is we've divided the chart in half. And here's what we're going to do. So the first Drekkana, let's count to see where Ketu sits. So there are 3 Drekkanas in this sign from the ascendant: head, neck, pelvis. Okay, he has Pluto in the neck Drekkana. That might be interesting, particularly since it's also aspected by Saturn. Who knows? Head, neck, pelvis. Then eyes, shoulder, linga, Guda. Ears, arms, and gonads. And that's where the moon sits in the third Drekkana, the gonads. We'll come back to this. We'll just make a note. Nose, side, sun is there, and thigh. Okay, nothing there. Cheek, heart, knees. He has Mercury in the cheek portion, the first 10 degrees. Cheek, heart, knee. Then jaw, stomach, ankle. Now, where am I getting this? I know this by heart, but you, to learn this, simply look here. By the way, here's another representation. So head, neck, pelvis, eyes, shoulder, linga, ears, arms, gonads, nose, side, thigh, cheek, heart, knee, jaw, stomach, ankle, mouth, navel, feet. And now we're finally getting to the 8th house where his Ketu is. Now check this out. Notice that this repeats again: jaw, stomach, ankle, cheek, heart, knee, nose, side, thigh. Again, this is the left side here. This is the right side. Okay? Now watch this. Watch this. In his chart, he has Ketu in the last 10 degrees of Aries. Okay? And because his ascendant is in the first 10 degrees, each sign we count 3 Drekkanas, 3, 3, 3, 3. So this is in the third Drekkana of the 8th house sign. So let's look at where that is. Let's see, right? That falls in the Jangha, calves/ankles. Now, it's interesting that the word used in Sanskrit is Jangha. Jangha refers to the legs in general, the shanks. But we already have a word for thighs, uru, knee, janu. And so it is implied that this rules the calves and the ankles, the lower legs, but it is not restricted to the lower legs. And because this is on the left side, it will rule problems with the left leg in general, and more specifically, the ankles and calves. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I did some research just before I got on this call to see if this was true. And one of his first injuries that got him out of golf was his left knee. Then his left Achilles. And that became a persistent, lifelong thing where he had surgeries on that knee. So if you simply looked at his chart and said, I want to find where Ketu particularly, especially if it's further aspected by malefics, where that sits, that is a Kha Vaigunya. That is a term from Ayurveda that says your weak space. And wherever there is space in nature, nature wants to fill it with something. And in this case, these malefics create a space that is viguna, that is of a bad quality. And at the first chance of an injury, the bad stuff will go there. And so he had major left leg, knee problems. Now, he had other problems as well. I'm not saying you can diagnose everything. And of course, I'm not a doctor. Most of you are not doctors. So we're actually not diagnosing anything. We're simply reading the horoscope and trying to find correlations between what we see in the chart and potential physical ailments or Kha Vaigunyas in the horoscope. Okay. So, and by the way, you can go through all of the other places. So, for example, Saturn in his chart falls in the ear portion, particularly his left ear. I don't know if he has any hearing issues because Venus falls also in his right ear. So that kind of tends to balance the hearing thing, but it may be that he has some hearing issues, particularly on the left side. But we noted that Moon. So my principle one is find K2 or where multiple malefics aspect. Okay. But especially where K2 is, and if it's aspected by other malefics, even more so. The second principle is find debilitated planets. In this case, he has Moon debilitated, and it is in the mushka, the gonads. Now, I have no idea whether he's on hormone replacement or if there is an issue with his hormonal system or not, but the chart would indicate that that is a Kha Vaigunya for him as well. All right. Now, so far, so good. What if the ascendant, though, is between 10 degrees and 20 degrees? Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you the chart of another guy that I just pulled up here, whose name is Albert Einstein. Now, Albert Einstein has his ascendant in the between 10 and 20 degrees of his rising sign. And as I mentioned before, wherever the ascendant is, that becomes the first Drekkana. Okay. That becomes the head Drekkana. So his ascendant is Drekkana number 1, which rules the head. Then the following Drekkana, that is 20 to 30 degrees, becomes Drekkana number 2. That is the neck or the throat. And then the Drekkana number 3 then would be in the following sign in the first 10 degrees, head, neck, let's just call it pelvis or busty. That's Drekkana number 3. Then Drekkana number 4 is between 10 to 20 degrees, and that is where his Ketu sits, by the way, which is his eyes. That rules the eyes. Now, I don't know if he had eye problems or not. In this case, Ketu is also aspected by Mars, so maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But let's keep going. So the point in bringing this up now is that if your ascendant is between 10 and 20 degrees, the first Drekkana will be between 10 and 20 degrees. It'll be the second Drekkana of the rising sign. I know that sounds confusing. I'm sorry. But just follow me here. If we then count, I see he has a debilitated moon. If we count what Drekkana that moon falls in, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in Leo, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, it falls in the 16th Drekkana. Okay, so remember, I counted. The first Drekkana is between 10 and 20 of Gemini. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is the first Drekkana. 16 is the second of Scorpio. So what is the 16th Drekkana? Let's take a look. We'll count them out. Head, neck, pelvis. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Hold on. 16, 17, 18. 1 second here. So actually his moon, is in the 17th Drekkana because it's between 20 to 30 degrees. So again, 1, 2, 3, counting from the ascendant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Again, moon falls in the last Drekkana of Scorpio. So the 17th Drekkana is the belly or stomach. And in fact, he died from a stomach issue. He had a lifelong issue with stomach problems. Now, you could probably get this just from looking at his chart. 6th house, moon, which rules the digestive system and so forth. And here, moon is not really aspected by any planet unless you take Ketu's 5-9 aspects, which I sometimes do, especially for health and relationships. So you could say that it is under the influence of Ketu. But the moon is in the 17th Drekkana. And using this tool, you will see that starting from the head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th, 17th Drekkana is the upper belly stomach. And you know what? I should renumber these, and I guess I will renumber these. Let's see. Let me renumber these so they look better. I'm going to pause this recording here. All right, I am back, and I have renumbered all of the Drekkanas from 1 all the way to 36. And we can make a list of these as well from 1 to 36 to make it easy to count in any chart. So back to Einstein's chart, we find that moon is in the 17th Drekkana. Okay. If we look to see where Rahu Mars sits, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, Mars is in the 21st and Rahu is in the 22nd. We can see what perhaps sits there. 21st is the feet, 22nd is the jaw. So we wonder if the left side of his jaw or he needed dental work. I don't know. But those are also areas that you can see have some affliction, even though Mars is exalted there, which may offer some protection. So this is an example of a chart that starts in the second Drekkana of the rising sign. And so everything is a little bit, is shifted over. But if you count the Drekkana number, you will get to where a debilitated planet is or where Ketu sits. Now, let's take a look at someone whose ascendant starts in the third Drekkana of a sign. Remember, wherever the ascendant sits, that becomes the first Drekkana. So for Christopher Reeve, the first Drekkana is actually the last Drekkana of Cancer. So 20 to 30 degrees of Cancer, where his ascendant is the first Drekkana. And what does the first Drekkana rule? The head. Notice that he has Ketu right there in his first Drekkana, as well as Pluto, if you want to count that. You can do some research on that. That's not in the sacred texts, in the ancient texts, but you can do some research on that on your own, particularly if that Pluto is also combined with other malefics. And of course, if you don't know who Christopher Reeve is, he is the original Superman. He looked like Superman. He played the part. He was amazing. But he had a horse riding accident where he fell forward and hit his head and became a paraplegic. And again, Ketu shows where the Kha Vaigunya is, particularly if also the dispositor is quite weak because he has that debilitated moon. as well, which is further made weak by two malefics. And in this case, that debilitated moon is a problem because it is the ruler of his ascendant, indicating that he himself is vulnerable to tragedy, to physical issues, problems. So let's see where his moon sits then. What Drekkana does his moon sit in? Now follow me here. The first Drekkana is the last 10 degrees of Cancer. Therefore, the second Drekkana is in the first 10 degrees of Leo, the third in the second 10 degrees, and the fourth in the third 10 degrees. And so we go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So his moon is in the 12th Drekkana. Okay. And his Mars is in the 13th Drekana. So let's see what he has there. Let me count it again. 1, last Drekana of Cancer. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 is the first 10 degrees of Scorpio. 12 Drekana is the middle. And the 13th is the last 10. So yeah, moon, debilitated moon in the 12th Drekana. All right, let's see what that shows us. And Mars in the 13th. All right, the 12th Drekana is the thigh. Particularly the right thigh. And then the 13th is the cheek. Now, I don't know if he had injuries to that, but I do know that he broke his leg after the accident during physical therapy. Let me check to see if it was, in fact, the right leg or not. So I'm going to put this on pause. Okay, so I could not find which leg. This simply says he got a broken leg, but it doesn't matter. We still show a susceptibility and a weakness to one of the legs. In this case, it indicates the right. But so again, to summarize, we have K2 in particular is what I look at, as well as where debilitated planets sit. And again, counting where the ascendant is, that Drekana becomes the head. And then you count how many Drekanas away the difficult planets are. So to find the moon, which is debilitated, we went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So moon was in the 12th Drekana, Mars was in the 13th. So if we go back here, the 12th Drekana is the thigh, which again is a vulnerability. And the 13th is the cheek, which is his, the cheek includes everything in the jaw, including the teeth. Okay. I know he had a ventilator and so forth, obviously as a result of the main injury. But again, the goal of this is not to get too specific. It's to show you to do this exercise and find all of the planets in your chart. So this is your homework. Find all of the planets in your chart. Which Drekana do they sit in, and therefore which body part do they correlate with? And see if you have a mole there. So in some texts, it says wherever Jupiter sits, the person will have a distinctive mole. Or wherever a different planet sits, it'll have like Mars can create a reddish or a puncture to the area. So in the case of Christopher, maybe he had tooth surgery or something. I don't know. Or even a tattoo. You might get a tattoo in that area where Mars or Ketu sit. So this would be a kind of an upaya, a remedy, quote unquote, for your Kha Vaigunya, your defective space. So find where Ketu sits, get acupuncture done there. Or if you're into tattoos, I'm not saying get a tattoo, but you can do that. Or, apply pressure to it, like percussive treatment. So, you can do something or pressure points to that area to allay that energy and to strengthen that area in some way. So I hope this video was useful for you guys. Drekkanas have so many uses, including predicting death, predicting the time of death, which is not something I do, but it's in the books. Travel, predicting your siblings, and even predicting based on the degree of your ascendant, what Drekkana your ascendant is in, your character, your personality, or the degree of your seventh cusp, the personality of your spouse. Wow. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Find the Drekkana of your seventh cusp, read what it says about it, and you'll be amazed that this is the type of person I tend to attract in my life. That's maybe more for another video. If you're interested in that, leave a comment. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one. Thanks again, guys. And Hari Om, happy holidays.